So make that request. Oh, good. Because I'd support that. I was going to reach out to you and time just flew. Right. Right. Right.
Come on, you know I'm on time.
Dave, it's at the very end.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 28th meeting of the Palm Springs Parks and Recreations Commission and call this meeting to order. At this time, I would like to ask Kayleen Blue from our Pee Wee Rex program to come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, that's cool. She's gonna lead us. That's cool.
That's so cute.
Oh, she's not shy at all.
Right. Ready? Put your right hand over your. Go ahead and start.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
That's strong.
Good job, you guys.
That is
Good.
cute.
Nice way to start the day.
Great way to start it, huh?
Nice way to start.
Okay, can we continue with roll call?
Chair Boley.
Present.
Vice Chair Coldonado.
Present.
Commissioner Armstrong.
Here.
Commissioner Cohen.
Here.
Commissioner Goodman.
Here.
Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Crawford.
Present.
Commissioner Diaz.
Here.
And Commissioner Lamort.
Here. Do we have a report on the posting of the agenda?
The agenda for this meeting was posted at City Hall, the Leisure Center, and the Palm Springs website on October 16th as required per our policies and procedures.
Thank you. I trust all the commissioners got a copy of our agenda. I'm sorry, our minutes. Are there any additions, corrections? If not, can we have a motion to accept?
Also move.
Charles?
Second.
Les, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Do we have any correspondence?
None today.
None today. Okay, this time has been set aside for the members of the public to address the Parks and Recreations Commission on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of our commission. Although the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it's generally not able to take any action on items that are not listed or posted on the agenda. Each person will receive 3 minutes, and we'd ask you to come up, have a seat, give us your name, and give us your information that you'd like to present to us. Okay, Mary?
Thanks, guys. I just wanted to welcome you all to Pickleball National starting next week at Indian Wells. We're going to have thousands of people there. And I want to say thank you to Ernesto and Cynthia and all of you for your support. We had 130 players at my kickoff the fall round robin on the 19th. And thank you, Mr. Coronado, for coming, and David for coming to today's Selkirk demonstration. And for all the work you guys have done, the windscreens were put up, the lights were all fixed. I know there's paddle saddles ordered. We have a crank to adjust the nets, so things are looking good. And the message board is beautiful. So it looks fantastic. It's really, the pickleball committee appreciates everything you do. And I just wanted to come out and say the round robin was great. The open courts, plenty of play for the public. MAD came out, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and I've donated $500 to them. And we also donated money to the Palm Springs Animal Shelter, since that tournament was dedicated to my dog that passed away. So we gave them $50. And again, just thank you for all your support for pickleball. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brenda Adams. I'm Palm Springs permanent resident, have been for the last 6 years. And recently I have started playing pickleball, and I just wanted to pass along my appreciation for the varied hours at the indoor courts that you've made available to us. We've got JOJ, as we refer to it, and the Demuth indoor courts at the center there. And just want to say the hours are working well. And also wanted to pass along thank you for, I know it happened a while back, but the expansion of the outdoor courts. And as Mary mentioned, the continued accessories and maintenance that you're doing there. I do have one other comment. As a lifelong recreation participant in sports, as I've started playing pickleball, maybe I don't play quite as well as I would like to. So that little competitive nature of mine said, well, maybe I need a lesson or two or a class. And so having participated in many recreation activities and sports throughout my life, my go-to place was the Parks and Recreation Department when I started looking for a pickleball class or lessons. And much to my surprise, there is nothing offered through the Parks and Recreation Department for pickleball lessons or classes. And so I talked to the ambassador of pickleball, and they said, well, we're trying to get some classes started. So I would just encourage you to offer classes through the Parks and Recreation Department. I know many of my friends and neighbors that are participating would appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Adri Rojas. I am a resident of Palm Springs. I play pickleball, and everything they say I think is terrific, although I think you guys are doing a terrific job, and we love our pickleball. I do have a couple comments that are a little bit negative. The windscreens up at the pickleball courts, Mary, you said something about them. I only noticed like one screen up there.
Before the tournament, he repaired them for me.
Oh, okay. But they're still missing on most sides of the courts. But the other big issue is, and I know anybody here who plays pickleball up at Demuth knows this, that the original 8 courts are actually in need of resurfacing. The way the nature of the sport is that you just stand in one spot a lot. And that surfacing has I would say at least 4 or 5 of the courts, has completely wore down to the cement and just become very slippery, which is really a hazard in an active sport like pickleball. So I know that people are going to be saying this to you because it's apparent. People are talking about it. And my other comment would be that I rarely travel down Valley to play pickleball because I love my pickleball community here in Palm Springs, as do most people. But I think we're really losing ground quickly to a lot of the places down Valley that have some real, I personally have not, Mary has, Dave has, there's some great facilities down there. And even though I know you guys have your budget constraints and all this and that, and I know that we as a community are kind of a pain in the butt, right? I just can't impress to you, how important it really is to the community. And I just see it as a huge benefit, and to not invest in it and to lose ground I don't think Cathedral City has really gotten on board, but I mean, Palm Desert has done some things. La Quinta has now in their park a wonderful facility, and a lot of people are driving down Valley. So, and right at this very moment, and this is my last comment, I have a friend staying with me at my house for the next 6 weeks, and he's from Bristol, England, and we met at the indoor facility at Demuth Park at the community center through pickleball. Al Nixon is in Palm Springs for 6 weeks for no other reason than our pickleball. And I just don't think you can underestimate the investment that good pickleball courts and a great facility would do. And it's Palm Springs. People expect to come here and see nice facilities. So I just would like to see some improvements, safety things, and then maybe a nice mid-century restroom. We could make it so cool, people would be talking about it everywhere. People would take pictures of it. I mean, it could be a really awesome thing. So that's it. Thank you, and I have 1 second left.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Meenan. First of all, I want to say thank you for what you guys have done to the dog park. Now I would like to talk to some things. First being health and condition of the dog park. I know you've upped the frequency of the dog park, but it's still having a lot of shortcomings and needs to be thoroughly cleaned with power washing and the bugs. Our immediate needs are clean and safe drinking water inside the dog park, not outside the dog park. Improve the ground coverings. The ground covering is coming up, and it's rocks, which again is hard for elders and is hard for our dogs. The fence needs to be improved. Dogs can go through the fence. This is a safety condition. Now, that can be done with operating budget. I know you guys have money in the operating budget because with Fund 2451, you have been granted $4.2 million. Now, online, I could not see the breakdown of that allocations of funds. So, now for capital improvements, stuff that we desperately need. Now also, sorry, for the immediate needs, the dog park is shut right now. This is the time that we would love to get this done at because it is shut for just a brutal amount of time, almost for 2 months again. And we need to see more than just drainage fixed, and reseeding because that doesn't help, and it's not enough. It's not enough. For my capital improvements, we need more seating. We need the seating that we have to be fixed. I get splinters in my ass almost every day on those park benches. It is brutal to try to get them out. Right? We need faucets, a misting system, more shade, and a fence extension on the small dog side especially. Now, I have asked about the subcommittee dog park, and I have not heard back. I would like to know what's going on with that and when we can get that started. Because as you can see, I filled up this room full of dog park lovers today that would love to be on this committee. Amen. Also, we would like to be on the 2021 Measure J, Fund 260. We would like money allocated into the dog park. I need to know how to go about doing this, when we can get this done, and if we can be allocated somebody specifically that we can talk to, that's our liaisons for the dog park. and I can be the liaison, so is a bunch of other people in this room. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, all of you. I'm Barbara Mattis, and I'm now a full-time resident, although I've been coming here for 40 years with my dog, Poppy, who's now 16, and she's been going to the dog park for 16 of those years. So we're all here, actually, those of us, on behalf of many people who regard the dog park as a very important and integral part of their lives. It's a social place to gather, and that's been broken apart for the next 7 weeks. It's just at a time when people are coming back to town, the snowbirds are coming back, everybody is disappointed. Quite frankly, all of the other dog parks in the desert put this one to shame, and we should be the best. We are the best town in the desert. Most of them close for about a month. Rancho Mirage is going to open again by November 1st. It is looking gorgeous. And, you know, if we want to continue this practice of closing it, somehow it should change, or a better practice than scalping. There are all kinds of different grasses that should be investigated that are desert tolerant and could be implemented in our dog park. Also, the irrigation, I noticed today there's a trench in the big dog park, but nothing's happened in the small dog park. So we understand that you need to close in order to do important work, but I think 7.5 weeks to do a bit of plumbing is a little egregious. That puts us in a place where people have to go somewhere, and they have nowhere to go. Demuth Park, last Thursday I went there and I checked on it because we were going to close on Friday, and workers were there scalping the grass at that end of the park, at the eastern end. I couldn't breathe. And now it's about 4 or 5 inches deep in dead grass, and nobody has anywhere to go. Part of the problem is it's about as inviting as a prison yard. And a lot of people won't go there, and a lot of people can't go there. It's absolutely not ADA compliant. I think somehow if we have to continue this kind of closure on the main dog park, the other places to go need to be scheduled to be done earlier so that at least we can transition over to another place, because now it's horrendous. For example, there's no pathway to get to the gate from the parking lot or from the street, the pathway that runs along Mesquite. There's a doggy bag stand, but it's 20 feet outside the 2 gates that it takes to get in. And those gates are just cyclone fence, and they're really hard to operate. I can do it. We have a lot of older people who come to the dog park, and they cannot manage it. Right now, I was in there last night. There are numerous ant hills. There's some critters burrowing at the northwest corner. No shade, no benches. It's disgusting. Dogs are going to get fungus and intestinal problems. And you guys have to do something about that. We are up for 7 weeks of having nowhere to go, and it's terrible for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara, I just have one question.
Thank you. Your reference to the dog park in Demuth, were you talking about the small one near the animal shelter on the east
Correct.
side? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
The big one is pretty.
That was the prison?
Sort of, okay, but the little one is like a prison yard.
Oh, the little one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, the big one, but it's at least it's got it's not
Can we have-
okay, but it's got a bench.
I just wanted that clarification.
Hi, my name is Steve Daneman. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate your attention to the important issue of the dog parks here. Obviously, people feel about it very deeply. And first off, I was interested, I picked up the city council meeting, and the first part of the city council meeting has to do with a closed-door session on liability. So from my viewpoint, the first thing you need to look at is health and safety, and look and see if there's any issues that need to be addressed immediately, because there's a potential liability issue, meaning somebody might get hurt. Now, there's issues with dogs getting hurt because of rocks, people tripping on rocks. So I'd say, first off, ask you, please look at the health and safety issues seriously and make sure that people and dogs aren't going to get hurt. The second thing I notice is just what is brought up, which is there's a lot of use to this dog park. There's one dog park. It's closed. Where do people go? And I just noticed another thing in second reading, that they're closing dogs on the recreational trails in the Santa Rosa and San Jacinto mountain areas. So it just means more pressure on the dog park. And you really don't want people spilling over into the other parks and creating other conflicts and creating other potential liabilities, people running dogs, people where children are. The dog parks are there for a reason, which is to contain dogs in their use, but also give them a chance to run freely. And so people and dogs will seek freedom. And so if you can give them other opportunities that are safe, that's a better way to go. So I appreciate your attention to this. I would ask, there's a lot of people here that are very interested in this issue, and to the extent that you need help with getting capital improvement support with the city council, let us know what we can do to try to do that, where there's opportunities. Because there is needs. It's been a long time. I was looking, I found an old website from 2011, 12, and there was improvements done in that 2012 and 13 period, but it's been a long time, and I think an investment is really needed in the dog park. And if you invest in the capital improvements and do the work the right way, you won't have year after year of going back and trying to fix things like the lawn. So I understand it's difficult with budget, maintenance, and heavy activity, and so trying to balance that out. I appreciate your position, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dave Paquette. I just want to put some positive things in here. We want to thank Cynthia and her staff for all the great stuff they've done at the pickleball court, especially at Demuth Park. The lights are all up and working. I played last night. Every light bulb was working. The courts were fairly clean, even though I know they've been cutting grass there, so it's kind of hard to keep up with that when they're scalping grass. And the new bulletin board looks great. I just want to say thanks for everything that you guys do, and we do really appreciate it.
Thank you.
How's it going, folks? My name is Johnny Ortiz. I've lived in Palm Springs for 43 years. Seen a lot of changes since I've been here. But as far as that dog park, you know, I'm a retired asphalt worker, built plenty of highways, won a lot of awards, and I've seen that you guys just don't have good enough help out there that they keep going out there and just making holes out there in the dog park year after year, and I don't understand why they can't just do it right one time and get it done. And as far as your pickleball courts or whatever, I used to play tennis, but I also resurfaced tennis courts and won awards doing the courts that we've resurfaced. So if you guys need help, I'll volunteer to help you guys do whatever to get it fixed right, so we only have to do it one time and not come back again. You know, if you guys really need, if that's the case, you know, I mean, I got friends, I'll put a crew together. I don't know what you guys need, but I'm tired of going through this every year, you know, and like I said, I'm from here, so I'm willing to do whatever to help the city. That's it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Wilson, and I'm a resident of Palm Springs, and I had no intention of speaking here today. I also play pickleball, so thanks for the pickleball courts, but I'm really here about the dog park. We have a dog that is a escape artist, and if she has the opportunity, she will dig a fence, she will jump a fence, she will bolt out a door, she heads straight into traffic at every opportunity. This dog, we just recently discovered the dog park. We've been going there maybe 3 months now, and it has made a huge difference in my dog. A huge difference. She is a happier dog because of this dog park. and I just got a puppy, and I can't wait to take her. But anyway, my point is, it's being closed for an excessive length of time at the time where the desert weather is the best. And my feedback on that is I get that maintenance needs to be done. Things do need to be improved at the dog park. Does it have to be done when the weather is the best, though? Does it have to be done now? Could it be done in the summer or in the winter when it's not the perfect time for your dog to be out there at any time all day long? In the summer, you can only come in a very, very narrow window early in the morning because otherwise it's too hot for the dog, much less for us. In the winter, it's cold in the mornings, so people will be here later in the day. But now is when this is our prime time outside with our dogs, and we can't do it here in our city that we love. So I just think that maybe in the future, I know it's kind of too late to do anything about it this year, but in the future, maybe consider our animals' needs when choosing when we're going to close it and for how long. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jack Reel, and I'm a real alcoholic, but that's a different meeting. I've been a resident of Palm Springs now since 2003. I bought a home here, moved from Huntington Beach, had a nice dog beach there, but I couldn't afford to live there anymore, so I bought a place out here. And I love Palm Springs. I've got a boxer that's almost 2 years old. She's looking at me like, what the heck is going on? You're not taking me to the dog park. Thankfully, Rancho Mirage is going to open up on Friday, so I'll be driving all, gas is expensive. I'm retired on a pension, Social Security. A tank of gas is $60 now. I remember when you could fill a Volkswagen for $2.50. And they'd wash your windshield. So times have changed, but dogs haven't changed. Dogs still need to run. They need to be with other dogs and, sniff butts like they do. And it's fun to be with them. Not only that, but it's fun to be with dog lovers because they are good people. So I'm looking forward to going out to Rancho Mirage. They got a nice park there, and I think Palm Springs could do a lot better than they're doing. Especially, I talked to the maintenance man at Rancho Mirage. He says, we don't need to be shut down for a whole month. This is a guy that works at the park. How in the hell are we down for 55 days here? That's ridiculous. From the 25th of this month all the way to the 18th of December? What the heck? This is ridiculous. Thanks for listening to me. I'll go have a beer now.
Hi. Hi, my name is Chet Grusky. I've been a resident of Palm Springs for about 10 years now, and I am a frequent flyer of the dog park. I am working on my 15th, 16th, and 17th dog in the city since I've lived here. And the one point that I've got to go across, beyond the fact that it's way too long that you guys are closing the park, why did you guys close the park Friday? Nobody's there Saturday. Nobody's been there Sunday. Nobody's there today. That's 3 days we could have been at the dog park if you guys closed the park today. That's a whole weekend we could have been at the dog park that you took away from our animals. And it's wrong. And that's all I got to say about that.
Hello, my name is Sidney James. I'm a full-time resident of Palm Springs. I think if the park is brought up to a better standard, which I think is possible since other people do it, the problem will be ongoing maintenance. We go maybe 2-3 times a week at least, and I never see anything change. And I've seen maintenance people come and just change the plastic bags in the poop containers, and nothing happens. I think you really have to look into what are you paying for and what are they doing, because I don't see anything change. And I've been told that the park is power washed. Well, you can go there anytime and just see dust with dog pee, and it never changes. If it's done so infrequently. So I think that the ongoing maintenance of the park, the regular maintenance, needs to be monitored, and I think some parameters put on that so the dog park can stay as good as it can. And also, in the small dog park, what really is a problem is you have overpopulation. There's just too many dogs and people for that amount of space. Right now, the block, to keep plants from growing underneath the stones is all coming up. People are going to fall and trip. Plus, it just looks awful. It's an embarrassment. So I think a primary problem is the ongoing maintenance. I do understand in Palm Springs you have, 2 relatively different seasons, and the grass needs to be redone at a certain time so it'll grow again. But last year, it looked exactly the same when we came back. So you could just see the seeds laying on the ground. I think the watering system in the small dog park, I can't speak as much on the big dog park, is whatever it's doing, it's not watering the grass. Nothing grows, nothing changes, and there's enough people that it just gets trampled. There we have it. So I think maintenance is a key issue and needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
Good afternoon. My name is Brandon Lindley, and I am a property owner, business owner, and first-time pet owner. I have a little French bulldog named Samba. He's 2.5 years old. And being living here in Palm Springs for about 3.5 years, I've been exposed to a whole different community because of the social aspect that the dog parks bring to this city. I never really experienced that before. Usually you had to go to a bar or you had to go to a coffee shop, but here you can go to the park and make a new group of friends. And I'm younger than some people in this room, but I'm able to make some great friends with all ages, all races, all demographics. So that's something that I really think that is very strong for dog parks, is that it brings people together. So I wanted to bring that up to your attention, that it is a strong social place that builds community here in Palm Springs. And also we can talk about the weather, the politics, what's going on, the different measures coming up in elections, whatnot. So that's really great to have. Going back to the closure, I think, yes, the scheduling is wrong. I think there could be a better time frame that it's worked out, or close half the park, leave the small dog open while the large is worked on, and then vice versa. That way you're not able to displace everyone for such a long period of time. Also, maybe when I'm sure there's contracts that go out, or I don't know how it works out of who's repairing it, but are you holding them accountable to being on time or to finish quicker? Lastly, also wanted to bring up that tourism. Kelly and I we face tourists and locals every single day, working along Palm Canyon Drive. Where are we sending them? Rancho Mirage or Cathedral City or somewhere else, but it's kind of like I have to scratch my head, like I don't know where to send you, where to go, So we have tourists coming in from LA, from all over this country, from Canada, that are looking for places with their furry friends. Where do we send them? So just want to put that into perspective, that it does affect the tourism aspect and how we're viewed. And if we are going to use any benchmark, I think Rancho Mirage has a fantastic dog park right there across from the Costco. So that's something, if we were ever going to use a benchmark of what we could do to make the right enhancements, I think they have a great model for us to follow. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Gilbreth, full-time resident for 30 years now in Palm Springs. And I'm nervous. I'm a retired school teacher. And when they built a new school where I taught, nobody asked the teachers anything. So they put a clock above the blackboard. Do you know what students do instead of watching the blackboard? They're looking at the clock.
You used to be able to read it.
Huh. They never asked any input from the teachers. It would have helped. So one of the things I'd like to ask is, can we give you some input? You might not be aware that when those big rocks soaked with dog pee in the summer, you cannot imagine the smell. And we can't water it down because there's no outlet for a hose. You might not realize that that goes on because it's like the teacher and the clock. You wouldn't think of that. I'm trying to think of something else. Yeah, we have a gal who comes to the dog park. She must be in her 80s. She brought a broom. This is, I guess, it ties in with the maintenance factor. And we're very frustrated. A lot of the times the doggy bag containers, they're missing doggy bags. We're frustrated. We feel neglected. And I don't know if it's the company you've hired to attend to the park or if it's Parks and Recreation. I don't know who's in charge of routinely seeing that things are working. And about the safety issue, I think it was last year or the year before, we were told that those new walkways, the cement, was so that people could walk without tripping on the grass, and that it was available for disabilities. Well, one of the women who used to come to the park, because the cement walkway was this high and the grass was this high, she tripped and broke her teeth. And I don't know what happened, if there was a lawsuit or anything, but it's the details that you need to talk to the dog park goers. And I'd also like to say that I brought my cousin to the dog park a few years ago. He's from the Pennsylvania, and he'd never seen a dog park like ours. He was thrilled, and he went home and got the community to put a dog park in where he lives. So if you're a dog lover and you care about dogs and other critters, we can spread the word just by having the tourists come in and bring the good message elsewhere. But please think about those stinking huge rocks and the fact that there's no outlet to get water. And there's a lot of other things I'm sure a lot of folks back here could add to the list.
Okay.
And thank you so much.
I don't know if it's allowed, but I'd like another minute, 30 seconds.
I don't, are we allowed to repeat?
Okay. I challenge you guys to talk to Dr. Reedy and see if you can advance the thing and make it open earlier. I'm challenging you guys.
If we have no other public comments? If you want to come on up and step forward so that we can, because we do have a lot of things on our agenda today, so be ready so we can kill this dead time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ethan Van Loo, and I'm a recent transplant to Palm Springs. The reason I chose Palm Springs over Cathedral City or some of the other cities was access to a good park, and it is a good dog park, but there are some improvements that could be done. First and foremost, getting the committee going that Kelly referred to would be a wonderful way to get a list of changes going forward. I would also like to add that having the good dog park brings in residents and travelers, and that's bringing in an invisible revenue stream that's going to the local businesses and thereby the city itself. And lastly, I'd just like to say that dog park people are good people, and Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Brian Beach. I'm a homeowner here in Palm Springs, 3-time rescue dog owner. And my husband, thank you. My husband and I go to the dog park every morning with our. We go to the dog park every morning with our very large dog. Well, we did go to the dog park every morning with our very large dog. When we heard that the park was closing, we went over to Demuth Park, large dog park, on the first day. I encourage all of you, I can't add any more. I won't bore you with everything that you've already heard again, but I encourage all of you to please go to Demuth Park, the large and the small dog parks. See what it's like for yourself. Prison Yard doesn't even describe it. You can't go. Allergies, it's a dust yard. It's a failure. If this is our alternative, which we know everyone that goes to the dog park, lock it up. Don't spend the money on maintenance. Save the city money, because it's useless as a dog park. It's completely useless. And there is another thought, too, that Palm Springs Animal Shelter will help you adopt a pet, but it's a very common mentality. Okay, now you have the pet, what are you going to do with it? There's nowhere to take your pet when they close all the parks. All the parks in the valley are closed. The only park that's available right now is one by Bighorn. Now, we drove over there thinking, okay, well, that's what we have to do because our dog is bouncing off the walls. We go there, and unfortunately, it's just a split rail fence, not really fenced, and it's desert. It's cactus, it's everything. It's not a place where you can take a dog. It's someplace you have to go on leash. So that really is, the timing is the real problem with these parks, is we need to time it better. There are other grasses that you can plant. You don't have to plant Bermuda grass. I know that the landscape companies make a lot of money scalping every year, but you don't have to scalp Bermuda grass. It goes brown during the winter, but have you seen the dog park today? It's brown. So I don't know. You spend a lot of money reseeding with winter rye. It really isn't required. I agree with Kelly, a subcommittee needs to be formed. I also agree with Kelly in that this is exactly what Measure J funds were designed for. Why we voted for a tax increase was because of things like this. This is what it's all about, and we need to keep that in mind. Please go to the dog parks. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I see anyone else coming forward, so I would like to close public comment at this time. Do we have city manager comments?
Not today.
Okay. A couple things I did want to cover here before we get into our staff update. To effectively cover our agenda, commissioners, we need to have our meetings in the time that is allowed for us to do them. Each commissioner will be recognized and to address the commission with a list in the order that they are recognized. But by Robert's rules, you are allowed 1 to 2 times. Excuse us, we're on air. You are allowed 1 to 2 times to speak. We will operate, each one of our commissioners will get to speak once, and when everyone has spoken in the group, you will get your second time. But it wouldn't be like David, then to Jody, then to David, then to Jody. It would be go through the whole group. Each item on the agenda will be given a specific amount of time, and the vice chair will be timing each of these as we go through them. At 6 p.m., we will initiate a motion as to whether we are going to table the balance of our meeting for the next meeting or continue on later. Is everybody questions? Okay. Cynthia, staff update.
All right. Thursday morning, we have the groundbreaking for the downtown park. I sent out an email giving you guys the time. It'll be at 9 a.m. That same day, Thursday evening at Village Fest, we will be hosting our Halloween event from 6 to 9. Staff will be out there hosting some carnival booths and games for our community. James O'Jesse will be having their Halloween event that same Thursday from 5 to 7. We have Pride coming up this weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it'll be some block parties and festivals downtown, and the parade will be on Sunday starting at 10 a.m., and the parade will head south on Palm Canyon, and it'll be about 2.5 hours long. We have about 6,000 people in the parade itself. Veterans Day will be November 11th, downtown Palm Springs at 3:30 p.m., and if you follow us on our Facebook or Instagram, you'll have seen a lot of Waldos out there. It is our social media campaign, and it's called Where's Parks and Recreation? So we could be anywhere from programs or facilities or downtown somewhere, and it's really just an effort to try to increase our following and also to get the word out on what our programs are. Some of those adventures have led us to be invited to do some podcasts to give more information about our programs out. So we're hoping to increase our following that way. So if you see our Waldos anywhere, please take a picture with them or, make sure you let the community know we're out there. They will definitely be out in full force on Thursday at the downtown street fair. So be on the lookout. We have our Clean and Sober softball tournament coming up this weekend as well. The seating has started, as you heard in some of our public comments. December 2nd will be boards and commission training. And then I am working with engineering on finalizing the scope of services to get the pickleball courts and some of the tennis courts at Ruth Hardy resurfaced. So that is in the movement forward. The money is allocated, so that isn't an issue. So as soon as we can get that out to bid and return back, we can get that project awarded. It'll go to council for approval, and then we can start on it. So just to give you those updates.
Thank you. I think it looks to me like we're moving along with a lot of the requests we're hearing. Commissioner Armstrong asked that we move an item on our agenda. At this time, do you still want to move it up since we've lost most of your audience? Okay, so we will leave it as it is. At this point in time, we're going to go into our discussion of topics, and we have discussion and review of the pickleball instructor's contract, I think, and approval of that. I think everyone received a copy of that from the Parks and Recreation's office. There are items in there. I think the main thing that I saw in there was city attorney signs it, so that's good enough for me, but does anyone have any comments, questions, or they would like to present? Commissioner Cohen?
I have a question. This was brought up when we originally saw a draft of this, which is if we're now going, people are going to the effort to actually get permitted to be instructors, and the city is doing this as a process, what stops or what do we have to keep it fair? What is there as far as enforcement so that the people who are now pirates, so to speak, but are going there and charging people to take lessons but have not gone through the approval process, there's no incentive for somebody to do the work that the permitted people are doing. So I just wanted to know, is there anything that can be done to enforce this?
So I would encourage anybody who knows that there is some kind of illegal class holding happening at any of our facilities to call the department with the information so that we can connect with the code enforcement department and send them out so that they can do ticketing so that they can take care of that.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Can I speak to that?
If you want to continue with that same question.
So if I heard you properly, it's code enforcement that takes care of it. I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Commissioner Young?
So does that mean as I walk through the wellness park every Saturday and Sunday morning and see two different instructors that have 30 people laying on the ground doing yoga, I can report that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Game on.
And remember,
It's after
Commissioners,
you're out.
you have an app on your phone that you can report that to code.
We'll try to get the weekend code number to you guys so that if you do see something like that, you can call code directly. I'm trying to think of how do I get you a list of approved instructors, but I don't have anything approved at the Wellness Park or at Ruth Hardy, with the exception of the grassroots tennis program for the youth.
Just so you know, there isn't anything on enforcement on here.
There's code
on the new one.
I
Not
thought
on the
there
main
was.
screen.
It's for public works.
Does anyone else have a question before we? Charles?
I just assume that, can I assume because the city attorney has signed off on it, that the liability issue has been dealt with, that the person has been vetted, and in case she'll be teaching children,
So-
she has to have a special.
So let me walk you through the process before I send anything to the city attorney. We have them go through the process of fingerprints and background checks. Because for our department, it doesn't matter what population you're working with, you still need to be cleared. After that, they provide a certificate of insurance to verify that they can do this. Without that, they will not instruct any of our programs. Once all of that is together, then I move it forward to the city clerk's office, where they route it to the city attorneys, the city managers, and once it's executed, it comes back to us and we move forward.
Okay, great, thanks. I actually had a question about the live scan, because I highly recommend you just get it done regardless. One of the questions under number 2, under duration and C, and I understand contracts are written where you want the right to terminate. I'm just kind of concerned about without notice, and actually, I'm concerned about the instructor and, of course, the community that's taking the lessons. And so for whatever reason, if there is no window of opportunity, a 15-day or a 30-day, and services just end, I'm not really sure that how that would land for our community. And so I'm just wondering, I mean, it might work because that might be standard, or there might not be any negotiation in that. But I know that if I was instructor, I would want 15 days or something, so that at least I could tell people.
It's standard for the city to do a 30-day. I'm not sure why it's not on here. It might be just because it's the recreational instructional agreement. The only reason we would get rid of them immediately was if there was a certain type of situation that endangered the community. But other than that, it would be a 30-day notice.
I mean, if I was signing an agreement, I guess I would want that in writing, but that's just what comes up for me.
Do we have any other first-time questions? Dieter, you're going?
So my question is, how do we determine who has the time period in the park? Like, say if someone wanted to use the courts, do they wait until after the instructions? Is there a certain time slot allotted to them? Or how does that work?
So she's only requesting 4 courts, and there's 12 courts available to the community. So she would probably be assigned courts 1 through 4, and there would be a paper informing the public that from this time to this time, courts 1 through 4 will be for instruction. She will get, once her program starts, she would get a roster, so she would check off everybody who was in that class. Obviously, if you're not in that class and she still has room, she could go to Demuth Community Center and pay the $12 drop-in fee for the day. Does that kind of answer your question?
It does, but my concern is the people who can't afford to play or pay just being bumped off.
That you have 8 other courts where they would be able to play, so they would still be able to play. This is particular to those who are interested in signing up for a class to learn more. We also do have free instruction basically that is happening at DCC in the mornings or at James O. Jesse. So those opportunities are available. She's interested in actually becoming a contract instructor for the department to provide a service for the community.
Okay, we're back to one.
One suggestion, since somebody has gone through the process of being vetted and scanned and everything else, Could there be a list posted on the brand-new beautiful board at Demuth that says who the permitted instructors are? And that way the public knows who is and who isn't, and it could be somewhat self-policing?
That will absolutely be posted once you
Excellent.
guys decide whether to approve this or not.
Commissioner Young?
My only question is this the same contract that is used for yoga and everything else? So it would be the same 0-day notice?
Correct.
Okay, so it's the usual contract. All right, thanks.
I see no hands in the air. I would like to ask for a motion that we approve this and give Cynthia the responsibility of initiating it. Commissioner
moved.
Cohen? Second?
Second.
Commissioner Goodman, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay, very good. Discussion on pickleball tournament approval. Cynthia, you have some input on the tournaments that are coming up?
So we've been getting a lot of inquiries from the community about hosting round robins or tournaments or just some fundamental classes. It concerns me because this is such a hot commodity for the public that I don't want to be taking away from them. So in an effort to be able to provide the competitive side of things and also, the first come, first served basis opportunity, I am seeking direction from the commission on if we're going to approve tournaments, is it once per month? Is it twice per month? Is it quarterly? What are we doing so that we have guidelines to do this as a department as we're getting inquiries? So right now we had Mary's in October. I have one that's, is it 2 or 3 days? I have a 3-day tournament in November. I have a tournament in December. I have 2 tournaments in December. Is it 2?
December 1st and December 15th.
I have 2 tournaments in December, and then I have another.
December 1st, that's in Makita.
I have another one in January. So I am open to providing this opportunity to the community, but I also don't want it to take over the resources so that the community cannot play. So this is my request of you, if we can talk this through so that we can set some guidelines and some boundaries so that when we get these requests, we know how to address them as they're coming in and not have to say, let me work with the commission a little bit while we try to keep the peace in the community with the usage of pickleball.
I don't know if this is the right place, but I'd like to make a motion that there would only be one scheduled tournament per month for pickleball. That's it. Starting, it sounds like you have one for October, one for November, there's 2 already for December.
They haven't been approved.
Okay.
And that's
my
my
opinion.
problem.
That way that leaves the rest of the month open for whomever, to public play. And I don't know, maybe,
Would you
Or
make that
perhaps, let me
revisit it
just-
later? If we approve it, to revisit it at a later point as things grow?
well, sure. And I'm also thinking, now that I'm talking out loud, maybe if it's season, maybe we need to adjust things per season, when the population increases, but.
Okay, I would need a second to Commissioner Diaz's motion.
I'll second it.
All right.
As long as we can.
We have a second by Johnny. Now we would have questions on the motion. Commissioner Young.
So I would ask, is there a thought that we might be able to either step back to the committee that we had to sit down with the community? Because one of the things we may find out is the entire community wants to play in a tournament, and therefore it may not be an issue to do it twice a month or once a month or whatever we decide. But we're walking in blind to make a decision that's not going to be made well because we don't really have the data. So what I'm wondering is if we could get a group to sit down with the group and say, if 50 people in that group say, no, I'm not going to participate in any tournaments, but I'm still going to want to play time, then I'd be hard pressed to say we could approve that. So that'd be my thought.
Commissioner Goodman.
And I appreciate that, thank you, Les. A couple of things, and that is one, are there enough courts? In our early conversations, there were a certain number of courts that really qualified for a tournament. So that's my first question. Are there enough courts?
I will only rent out 8. I will never rent out the full 12, just to make sure that there's 4 courts always available to the community to be able to play.
Okay, and then I had these notes for commissioner comments, but last year, the city council gave a directive to go and explore additional courts at Sunrise Park and other parks. There's never been any follow-up to that discussion, and I really think that we owe it to the pickleball community, one, to meet with them, but really have the city follow through. I mean, it would be really great if we could create a small spot next to the Boys and Girls Club in Sunrise Park that was a tournament-worthy space where they could have all the courts and be competitive and raise money for the city, and have Demuth Park be an alternative to pickleball, so it could be recreational, take that one tennis court back to it, so there are 2 tennis courts, and have it be a blended park. So Demuth would be blended, Sunrise would have these wonderful new courts and a center, maybe with a facility or a shared facility, be right next to Boys and Girls Club. It would be right where summer camp is. I just think we owe it to the community to either continue that conversation that the city promised or close it. But for me, it's just dangling out there.
Thank you, Commissioner Goodman. Commissioner Cohen?
I appreciate what Commissioner Young, Commissioner Goodman have said, and somewhat along some of the same lines. I think we're trying to, your question is, how do we thread the needle? What's enough, but what's then not too much? And I don't think I have the wisdom or the data to understand that, because if we did something that could be like a knee-jerk reaction, just say 1 a month, well, how about if somebody can't play on Saturdays or Thursday or what have you? Does it matter if we say, well, you can only take up so many weekend days, or you can only take up, the rest have to be on weekdays or mornings versus afternoons? So I'd rather not be completely cut off by saying to staff, you may only authorize 1 per month under our direction.
Are there any other comments? I believe we have to give a... Do you have one more question?
I do.
Go ahead, Ellen.
Thank you.
Commissioner Goodman.
Thank you. I'm curious, is it just a one-day tournament, or is it just partial?
They
half day?
vary. Mary will do 1-day round robins, but we get solicited for 2 to 3 days. And again, my concern is taking away from the community. So I definitely don't want to do that, but I also want to make sure that we're offering the competitive opportunities occasionally for those who are interested.
I mean, I don't think this is going away. Pickleball is only going to get larger and larger. And so having a designated pickleball center, an area where you can rent it out for 3 and 4 days, you know, you can really attract that community and those resources and dollars. I think it's a very valid opportunity. I'd like to see us explore it with City Council. I don't know how to go about doing that, but I'd like to.
I think your guys' first step would be attending Measure J committee meetings and, you know, voicing these concerns and opinions to them, because that committee watches those dollars and they help allocate based off of, you know, staff recommendations or whatever the process is.
Well, you're right, because last month David Reddy sat and told us that there's $1 million available for community projects. It's been allocated to Parks and Rec. We've already met with engineers in the city. We've gotten designs and drafts and drawings, and we've gotten quotes. And it well fits inside of that $1 million community project, with maybe even some money left over to be able to add to some other park projects.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think it's great if we have all these new facilities later, then we could do something. Cynthia is asking some of our direction right now with what she has to work with, just so that we support what she does with these, with the facilities we have. I think we have to either vote, Commissioner?
I'd like to modify the motion, no more than 2 a month. That way, if there are more, we can accommodate that. But that way, we don't slam it shut at just 1. So that's my suggestion.
Commissioner Diaz.
I just wanted to get a motion out there so we could have a discussion, so.
And you did it well.
Commissioners, would you like to vote on no more than 2 a month at the present time and revisit it later, is what we're thinking when we grow? Commissioner
Can I
Cohen?
just ask one question? Cynthia, you've been doing this longer than we have around the table. Do you have a feeling for what is enough and what is not too much?
I actually wasn't lucky enough to have pickleball courts in San Bernardino, but I am lucky enough to have them here. And again, I think 2 would be a great start, and if later on we need to adjust it, then we can do that. But we need some guidelines, and we need some boundaries to be able to do this so that we can accommodate both.
I'm sorry, we're not allowed to take open comment. Thank you. Would any commissioner like to redo the motion?
I guess that's me. So I'd like to make a motion that we schedule no more than 2 tournaments per month at the present time, with the ability to revisit the motion at a later point.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll second that.
Charles is second. If there are any other discussion, we can go right into a vote on that. All in favor of no more than 2 a month at the present time? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? 1. Okay, our next item on the agenda, I think, Cynthia, you have someone here to talk to us?
Yes, our sustainability manager, Patrick Tellerico, is here to give an update on the hiking trails and dog prohibition.
Good afternoon. So just a quick update on the dogs on trails issue. So as you probably know, the ordinance to prohibit dogs on trail consistent with the multi-species plan went before the council and it went for its second reading at the last council meeting and moved forward. There was a request made at that meeting by a resident to look into the addition of a trail in the city to accommodate dogs, and I think the city was receptive to that, and so I think that we're investigating the potential to do that. I don't know how much flexibility we have on that because of the jurisdictional issues involved in a lot of the area that we would put a trail. So I don't know that it's our decision to make, but I know that there was at least some discussion of adding a dog trail near the Garston Trail by CVAG, and so it's maybe a matter of just talking to them and figuring out if that can go forward anytime soon. So we're looking into that. I know that we have had some vandalism to the signs that have been put up. I was waiting until the second reading to actually get those back up. So I put in a request to maintenance to have those reinstalled, and so hopefully they won't get torn down again, but we have more, so we'll see. And other than that, the small group of folks got together to talk about a volunteer trail monitoring group that would serve as kind of monitors at the trailheads, not only for the dog issue, but also to provide information on trails and what to do and not to do while you're hiking and that kind of thing. So we've been in discussions on that and are developing some sort of a volunteer force to make that happen. I believe that the way that that will come about is probably have them as a volunteer group through the city so that we can insure them and give them some resources to do what they do. So that's probably the way that that will happen. So.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for him at this time? I know Commissioner Cohen had requested this be updated.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Was there any discussion at council level or within city staff as to how this should be properly enforced if there are dogs on the trail so that there aren't people fighting each other on the trails around this issue?
Yeah, so I think that's something we're going to have to discuss further with the volunteer group because most likely the process would be if somebody resists and takes their dog on the trail, the next step is probably for them to call code enforcement and have them come out and greet the person on the other side. So that's most likely how it would play out. we would definitely not want to encourage them to engage.
Remember, we don't look for confrontation. We report
Right.
to someone that is trained to do that.
Got it.
Are there any other questions at this time on that subject? Thank you very much for taking the time to come in and update us.
No problem. Anytime.
Okay, our next discussion on meeting dates for our ad hoc committees. Recommendation of staff. Cynthia, you said that on this you wanted,
I just need to know when you all want to meet, days and times, so that we can start sending out the meeting requests, so that we can start moving these subcommittees and these topics that we want to make some movement on.
and we currently have 3 subcommittees.
We had the dog park, we had restrooms, we had the pool, and we had Measure J.
4. Forgot the 4.
So on the next agenda, I would also like to see if we could get a subcommittee for park renaming. I know when I first came in, we had discussed it, but it never really went anywhere.
Okay. I sort of looked that this may be something we would be incorporating in with 6 once we put a public person in for coming up with our dates, or am I? Your ad hoc committees, that's where we're putting a public person talking.
Yes, yes.
So do you want us to give you times today for these ad hoc meetings, or?
Just
shall
so that we
just
can
get
establish them, and then as we approach the latter part of the agenda for the next month, then the public could be added to those meetings. It's your call.
Commissioner Goodman.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on this. So because they're subcommittees, they have to be posted so many hours, they're
Standing
open.
committees have to be posted. By calling them ad hoc committees, we don't have to do that.
That's what I thought, yeah.
That is why I'm a little confused, as I thought we had our meetings as needed on the ad hocs.
They were ad hoc,
Well,
not standing.
we need to get some of these moving, the restroom in particular, because you guys will be providing input as to what the design will look like, and we haven't had any meetings since you have established these new committees.
We have 3 people at current on the restroom committee. Who's the third? It was Miguel. Does anyone else want to be on the restroom committee? I know, I think I was on it before I left town the last time. And I was thinking the last time I was put back on it, come to think of it. You were chairing it at that point?
No, actually, it was Miguel.
Miguel was chairing it, you
Prior.
on it at some point, and Charlie and myself.
How about we, each one of these committees, come up with a time when we need to meet for these things, and we send it in to Cynthia? Can we do that after the meeting? Can we
I'm not-
communicate when we need to
I'm
get?
not so sure they should be standing, but I hear that you need us to make some movement on it. And so.
They're
They're not standing.
So then they don't need to be
But
at the same time every,
No,
okay.
I
got
just
it.
need you guys to
Right.
meet and let's start moving these projects forwards,
Right.
because these are basically your goals as a commission, and I
Right.
want to help accomplish some of these with
Right.
you, for you, and we can't do it if we're not going to meet.
And I think also pickleball, because I know that we've had, we did some work with pickleball, and we hosted community meetings along with tennis, and I think with the follow-up to pickleball. So I'd like to add pickleball to that list, because the city, I think we need to hold the city council accountable for a commitment and promise that they made to the community. And it just, that's just my comment.
She is correct, we do need to go into these meetings and keep moving them on. I did attend the Measure J one this month, which I think we need to be at each one of their meetings, so that we keep ourselves in front of them. And so we need to keep our committees, and the restroom committees are coming up with the plans that we will be meeting. So we need to kind of pull it together, and when we know where we're going to go with that also. So could I ask Commissioner Diaz?
would anyone like to join Charlie and I on the restroom?
They said I was on it last time. I was placed on it at the last meeting.
Okay, so are you
Again,
still
so there's
on it?
3.
Okey doke. Dieter, you want to jump?
We can have 4.
Yeah.
We can't have more than 4 at the present time.
I'll go ahead and join the restroom then.
Commissioner Young, you had a question?
Yeah, so my question, a couple of things. Remember that you can appoint liaisons to various committees. I've been appointed to the Homelessness Task Force representing From Here for the last 3 years. So we should probably, you may want to take the step of appointing someone, even if it's yourself, to be the liaison for various other commissions so that you're making sure that we're getting representation there. The other thing is, I'm wondering, what is the pool committee? I mean, I thought we did it. I thought we got everything ironed out about the bathrooms, but is there more coming forward?
No, we were going to be focusing on possibly reprogramming the pool to give our high school and club teams a solid time to do their workouts separate from the public.
I'm wondering if we should just look at it, who's on every committee, because I don't remember everything.
Do we have a lead person on each of these committees?
That's a great question.
Who would like to be lead of the restrooms? Charles. So you will get together with the rest of us to come up with when we're going to be meeting. What else do we have? We have the pickleball. Who's on?
Maybe lead? Okay, I'll be lead.
Ellen. What else do we have?
Dog park?
Dog park. Who is on the dog park?
Travis.
Do you want to lead that one?
Sure. Thanks.
Travis.
Right now, it's just Travis and Ellen, if anybody wanted to join.
Would anyone else like to be on the dog park? I was writing fast and I can't make out what I wrote.
Okay, here we go. Let's see, restroom swim committee.
The swim committees,
Jody, Les, and Johnny. I'm removing myself.
Jody, Les, and Johnny are on the swim committee. And who is going to be lead of that?
I'll do it.
Johnny.
No pressure.
Measure J. Who is on the Measure J with me?
Ellen, Alan,
Ellen?
Johnny, and David.
David? Me.
You'd be the lead.
Who would like to be the chair of that?
I think you're the best person.
I need everyone there with me each time. Okay, now we have those all lined up. Each one of, did we get them all covered?
Can we do a park naming or renaming?
Park naming, is there anyone that would be interested in being on the park naming subcommittee?
I will. And then
Travis, didn't you?
I'd rather not be on it, just, I think the dog park is doable too.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Connie, next few minutes.
Johnny?
What is the park naming subcommittee?
So we've had community members interested in either having a park renamed after a loved one or what have you, but there's no policies, procedures, or guidelines in place for how we as a city go about doing it. So we really need to establish something so that when those opportunities do come up, we can have something in place, follow those guidelines, bring it to the commission to present. And if that is the direction the commission wants to go in, then you guys would make that recommendation to council to have that park renamed.
Could I suggest that maybe the scope of that be expanded slightly, because it's something that's been coming up that is part and parcel of that, which is when people want to make a donation, not just to name an entire park, but to buy something substantial for a park,
So there's a tree,
or a bench, or
a tree, and I can't remember if it's a tree plaque or a tree itself that's in place already. I want to say I've handed that out to you guys in previous meetings. I want to say there's something for benches, and then the dog park has the bricks.
But my suggestion, what I'd like to explore through this is there are other things that we've talked about that people may be interested in donating. People have talked about things in tennis and pickleball and other things. Maybe the subcommittee could just look about how you take up donations and naming in general rather than just one
Okay.
thing, which is an entire park.
That was
Commissioner Goodman?
I think that's great, because it really was, when we did our retreat and we created a list of priorities, I believe that was number 3 or 4, as a way to generate some revenue.
Well, Marcus Fuller and David Reddy did tell us that the foundation could accept those monies. We
Right.
asked that question specifically, so there is a conduit.
Right.
Commissioner Young?
But I think this one was specifically because it's probably a year and a half ago, somebody who had deceased, they wanted, was it part of a baseball field or a
Right,
baseball
yes, a
field
young-
named?
young man
And we got
passed.
dragged into, this is a bigger thing. So I agree, this is one that I think we just totally, either park naming or parts of parks or elements within parks. And it was nothing to do with donations, so I'm not sure that we want to run that parallel. But I'd like to see if we could get that done, because we've got a family that's still waiting out here to say, can our kid?
We have 2
Oh,
families.
is it now too?
Yeah.
We have that. We don't have any guidelines in place. I was contacted by someone else wanting to asking the next time you name a park. I know an entertainer that lives in town that would really like to have you recognize him, if everyone knows.
Well, and
That
if,
came from Gary Keefe.
if we get the new park, Prop 68, we'll already have something in place to help with getting it named. So that'll be very
Can't we
helpful.
just go off those guidelines
Yeah.
to a certain extent?
All parks would have to go under the guidelines that we establish and get approval from council to use.
Okay.
Then I'm just, point of clarification. Les is talking about the issue of just naming a park without donations involved, which is, I apologize, I thought maybe that was part of what was being asked. If it's just around naming, do we need a subcommittee for that, especially if there's now Prop 68 protocol that you could bring to us to?
No. What I was saying is if we get awarded the Prop 68 park that we applied for, these guidelines would be put to use in helping name that park. Right now, there's nothing in place, and so there's going to be a million different ideas as to what we could name that park, and it'll make our life easier in naming it if we have proper guidelines to follow on how to do this.
Gotcha,
Do we have another commissioner that would like to join Johnny on that?
I will.
Les?
And if I may ask a question, Ellen, I'm wondering, can we look back at the naming of James O. Jussie Park? Because that is a park that is dedicated to an individual who resided in the area and was recognized with the naming of a park. So if we can go back to, if there was an ordinance or something that established that, that might be framework that we could start from. I'm not sure where we'd look for that, but that is a live person who at one time lived here and was part of our community.
And he was the manager of the James O. It used to be the Desert Highland Unity Center. He was, the person there. So when he passed, unfortunately, taking kids on a trip, I don't know if that's why it got named in his honor, but that's a great idea. Let's look back and see how it was that they changed that. And they actually didn't change it, they just tacked him on the front end of that, so.
I'm just hoping it was done by ordinance so that we can just copy that.
Right, that would
because
be
that's
great.
perfect recognition, so.
Perhaps Dieter, how long ago was this done, and do you have any background or ability to bring something to our commission on that, since you're involved with them?
It was done in the summer of 2000. I'm not sure if any policy was put in place. I think the city just kind of went ahead and named it as an honor because, like Jody said, he did lose his life on a fishing trip with the recreation center. So I think they kind of just went ahead and did it.
I'll ask around and see what I can find.
Okay. Were there any other people that wanted to be on the park naming? Commissioner Cohen, you're,
I'll volunteer to be on the park naming.
okay.
Who's leading?
And
I am.
Johnny is the lead? Does that give you the direction we want to go there?
Yes, and pickleball only has Miss Ellen.
No,
Oh, and Johnny?
pickleball has
Oh,
David.
I missed that one, sorry. Johnny. Got it.
Okay.
Restrooms, you good? Yeah,
Yes.
you already got those. Okay, cool.
We got everybody.
As we go into the Measure J one, each month, I do want to go to that and would like the rest of our group to go and make public comment with us. And if we have other groups that are coming up with something that needs done that we're going to be looking for money, it's a good idea if we continually go into Measure J, even if we don't have a major thing. Just keep our name in front of it and drop the idea. Because when I went in last week and said, thank you for the money you gave us for the restrooms, now we need more. They went, and I told them why we needed more, that James O'Jesse doesn't have a bathroom when the place is closed and there's a function going on. And the dog park doesn't have a bathroom in the city hall with their eyes lit up. And I think we're making some progress. So we can't stop. We got to keep pushing on it. Okay, number 5, last meeting, Commissioner Armstrong, I believe it was, asked about a student commissioner process of having a student commissioner. We checked into it, talked, do you want to bring them up to date on that, Cynthia?
So I spoke with the city clerk's office, and this position wasn't something that was appointed by council. And so what Anthony had referred us to do is to have our school representative here on the commission get with the school district to compile a list of the students. And then at that point, the commission could hold interviews, or a subcommittee could hold interviews, and then maybe your top 3 can come before the commission, and then we can do a selection.
Those tied with our school system would be Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Goodman. I would think we could pull from that. Do you have any indication? We were thinking of having a list of names put together, a subcommittee that would do an interview. They would be probably a non-voting, because if we went to voting, that would put us into an even number, and we're right now at an odd number on the commission. Commissioner Diaz.
So I can reach out to Palm Springs High School and see if I can get some interested students and start there.
Commissioner Goodman. I'm sorry, you're hard to see.
So, a couple of things. There was a discussion, maybe Anthony's not aware of it, with the Human Rights Commission, who was actually trying to put together a pro forma for all commissions to be able to bring in students. One of the reasons was we actually had a student named a year ago who, after many, many phone calls, was sworn in, and after many, many phone calls, never came to a meeting.
This commission?
This commission did. The person never came. And one of the issues was we went to the high school and asked for a recommendation, and the high school made a recommendation. They chose a student that was very active in many ways, and it ended up providing a name of a person who didn't have time to fulfill and never called us. So I do want to be very, very careful if we're going to do this, and I think we should do it, that we're doing the same thing across the board with all the commissions so that it's fair. They don't say, oh, well, it's easy to sneak onto Park and Rec, and it's really hard to get into the Human Rights Commission. But I'd like to see if they could give us, is there something you're doing, Human Rights Commission, before we go off and create our own?
Perhaps, Cynthia, you could bring us that information at the next meeting? And then possibly Jody Diaz and Commissioner Goodman putting together some ideas of how we would, what you might think we need to do as far as how we would go about selecting and interviewing them?
Yeah, and I can tell you that there are a lot of students who'd be very interested. I also went to the high school, and when I spoke with the principal and we talked about the vetting and the students, then I was told we had already gotten a student, and so I did not continue. But I do think our schools would very much like to create leadership opportunities for their kids. And if the commissions haven't created a guideline, I think we could use what the school district does, because they have high school students as student board members for the Board of Education. And they have, yeah, so there's a lot of things already in place that we could borrow if indeed the city doesn't have something.
If it's Commissioner Armstrong.
I just want to raise the point again, though, that, there are students in our city who are homeschooled or go to other private schools, and just making this exclusive to the public school system doesn't seem equal to me, so inclusive. So at least if there was some mechanism of some noticing, I don't know how much we'd have to, reach out, but some way that there'd be a way for other students to, apply as well.
Excellent point.
And I'm thinking, we do have Desert Learning Academy, which is a home-based instructional process. That's another place we could broadcast or, put out that we're looking for someone, but that wouldn't reach everybody. So I don't know. Do you have an idea? No.
Well, maybe what we should do first is find out what the city has in place and model that. And if there isn't anything in place or it should be modified, then we can put the protocol, the vetting process, and the standards in place. Then we could throw our net wide. And I think there are ways we can reach homeschool. Most homeschool kids are in a lot of after-school activities. It's kind of one component of homeschooling. So I think we could probably throw the net wide enough where it wouldn't feel exclusive, and we could find other folks. But I think first we have to get the process in place.
Can I recommend then that we get the process moving with Cynthia getting us the information of what the city might have in place so that we don't do something wrong first? And perhaps we'll have that on our commission agenda the next meeting to follow up. And at that time, then the two of them will start coming up with ideas of how we're going to do
Do
it.
you want to create the subcommittee for that? So as soon as I get the information, I can move it forward to them, and then they can bring back a process for the next meeting, and we can be ahead of the game a little bit?
We have two people on that subcommittee already. We have Commissioner Diaz, we have Commissioner Goodman.
So I will send my information to them, and then we can move from there. So hopefully by the time we come again in November, you guys can pick from a process.
Okay? Very good. Now, I hate to say this, at 6:01, we have item 6. I don't think is going to take a lot of time and is quite, I think, important that we do move forward at this time. Do we have any objection to seeing if we can cover this? Okay, Cynthia had talked with us about a public person on our committees. And I think we come up with some ideas of what you want to tell them how we're going to do it starting Wednesday?
So I had looked into seeing if there was any process in place already through the city clerk's office, and there really wasn't anything in place. So so far there's two options that we can discuss. The first one is basically similar to how we're going to handle the student, that process, or we can advertise it to the public that we're going to be soliciting some public input, and they can drop their name into the commission or into the subcommittee that they're interested, and then at our next meeting, you guys select from those different jars who it is, because at the end of the day, the subcommittees really don't have all that time to be doing interviews, because all of that takes a lot of time from you guys, and you guys are already busy, so it is up to you how you want to handle it, but these are two options that I do have for you to select from.
Commissioner Young?
So I have a question. Commissioner Armstrong, you were on a group that worked feverishly on Dog Park, and it was covered by people who were part of the commission, people who weren't. How did that come together?
So I think over time, things kind of got changed, because this commission used to have subcommittees that had members of the public, and then one day it was just announced there no longer were going to be subcommittee members who weren't part of the commission, and there are other committees. Sustainability, the Active Transportation Committee, I think is almost all made up of non-commission members. So there is some mechanism for other commissions to have these, not just one either, because they have experts. So I think the past director decided they didn't want the subcommittees, and it actually was a surprise to some people at the city when the dog park issue came back before, because there was the idea that there are all these people on the subcommittee, and the subcommittee went away overnight kind of thing. So because that's how I started, I was on the subcommittee. So I don't know. It seems like there's all sorts of different rules and history and all that. But because just for the dog park, I think we would need more than one
And this is
representative,
your
yeah.
guys' call. So if you want more than one, you can do that. But there's no specific process in place on how do we establish that. So.
Commissioner Young?
My thinking is, there's a group of people who give a darn. We might be calling 5 or 6 of them together, along with a representative from the commission who can actively lead or keep on point. But we've got a lot of subcommittees here, and it feels like this is an opportunity to engage public, to buy into the process and understand all the levels that we have to go through to get things to council. So
Right, and what I've seen you guys do since I've been here is you notice these meetings to the public and they show up. What the last discussion was, can we select an individual to be a part of this subcommittee? And it's not just a matter of the notifying. So if you don't want to select a particular individual, you don't have to do that, but we can keep noticing like we have been and treat it that way.
I may not be stating it right, but what I'm actually looking for is let's pull 4 or 5 people from the audience that want to do this and have 1 or 2 representatives from our commission be present. Because I think they're going to be the body that have done a lot of work already, and they've got the mind for it and they've got the drive for it. So,
Chair, I mean, you know, when those folks were talking, you know, they talked about some of the words maintenance, overuse, need to talk to the dog park goers, social space, health and safety. And I really think specifically with the dog park, the only way we're going to get out of this cycle that we keep having, because when that fellow mentioned, you know, this website from 2011 or 2012, that's a website I created back then, palmspringsdogs.com, that all the stuff we're going through back then, there's the exact same kind of pictures. And so when you have these experts, these subject matter experts, you know, engaged and involved, I don't think we will fall back as much. Just things like happened with that closing on Friday, you know, which why did we close it over the weekend? That sent a really bad message to the community. But those types of things like the choice of rock and things like that, those are the people that deal with it every day, you know, and they're the ones that can tell us. And so I think, at least in this specific issue, what Commissioner Young is talking about would really be helpful going forward. But I don't know the process, but I think we should have those kind of people.
There's no process,
Yeah.
and it's your call. So, and that's what we need to establish. So how do you guys want to handle this so that we can make it happen?
Commissioner Cohen.
I'd like to make a suggestion, which is I don't think this is also cookie cutter for each subcommittee. So I'd like to make a suggestion that, for instance, restrooms or Measure J is wholly different than, say, dog park or pickleball. So maybe we leave it up to each subcommittee to make a recommendation, bring it up to, we could have another agenda item on a future meeting and say, what does this subcommittee want to do? And then the dog park people probably will know what's best for dog park subcommittee and what you want your process to look like or be. And same thing with pickleball, and then some subcommittees might say, I'm not sure this really lends itself to having that kind of participation. But I'm not sure there's one way of doing it for all the subcommittees, and that's why I like to.
Would you do it through an interview process, or would you do it through like a lottery? Like put all the names in and we pull a name out of the hat? I mean, seriously, I am on the finalist for the redistricting commission for the state of California. And they narrowed us down to 80 people, and now they're giving us all a number, and it's going to be a lottery. And that's how they pick the first 8 people for it. So the state approves that.
Let me on piggyback on what David said. Because it's so unique to each one, maybe what we could do is each of the committees that involves the community have a community meeting, start to see who bubbles up with some interest. If it's a lottery idea, that's a great idea. But why don't we all first meet in our committees with our constituents and come back maybe next month and report what our findings were and maybe then have some solutions.
I like that, Commissioner Goodman. Does anyone else have a suggestion? Let's take that for our lead with our subcommittees now to come back for our next month with what we would like to do in each one of them. Well, we made it through the 6 items on there, and we are up to, real quickly, Commissioner comments. We want to start with Commissioner Lamort.
First of all, welcome to Dieter. After all these discussions, I would like to be on the Measure J Commission with you. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Goodman. Commissioner Caldonado.
I pass.
Commissioner Young.
I'd like to see if we can get something added to the agenda to answer to most of what the complaints were from the public about the dog park. Stacy come in and give background and just maybe some conversation about why we choose the grass we choose and why we see twice a year and why the park didn't accomplish what it was supposed to do, at least in the large dog park, by being split. Because when we originally got the large dog park, it was split. So if we could just get that added to the next agenda so we are educating. Thanks.
Commissioner Crawford?
Yeah, I just want to say this is my first meeting, so I'm excited to be here. I'm a product of Palm Springs Parks and Recs, so just excited to get to work. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Armstrong? Commissioner Diaz? Commissioner Cohen?
We're entering season, and there's a bunch of parades and other things, including this coming weekend. And in past years, we've had Parks and Rec participate, and we talked about how to do that even better than last year, where we would invite public people who use our Parks and Rec to actually come and march with us. Just curious, is there anything organized for, say, the Pride Parade this coming weekend? And are there any other dates coming up in the next month or two that we ought to be aware of so that we can? Thank you.
And Festival of Lights. And I'm in the process of ordering your guys' banner for the parade, so.
Is there anything for Pride, for instance?
I don't know if Jasmine has reserved a slot. Let me check with her, and if so, I'll send out an email. And then from there, if there was a slot reserved, if you guys will invite your community friends to come and march with you guys, I think that would be great.
I like the idea, but I don't believe there's enough people to go around. They're begging for entrances to carry the sign banners for each 1PS group. They're begging for people to march for Pete. They're begging for people to carry the flag. They're begging, and so far I think everybody's in the parade already. Commissioner Young, you had something?
My only thought is, we had talked about inviting pickleballers and tennis players, and if we did run out, if there is a spot, and we ran out and just asked each of those communities, and maybe even check with basketball at Demuth Dog Park, and there's several different teams at James O. Jesse, the swimmers. If everybody brought, their towel if they're a swimmer, and dog if they're,
Tennis,
paddle, whatever,
racket.
you'd be amazed at being invited.
Okay, Cynthia can check to see if there is an entrance, because I know entrance has been closed. As Cynthia did mention, Thursday at 9 a.m., we have the groundbreaking finally for the downtown park. Les and I have been on that committee to represent Parks and Recreation, and I know we're excited about it. And I hope everyone that, as many as possible can come, wear your commissioner shirts, badges, whatever. Cynthia, see if you can, that Dieter gets a badge. At present, we currently have 2 openings on the commission. We have a couple people that have suggested they have interest in applying for the commission. We are going to be probably interviewing again if anyone else has anyone else that they would like to push them to get into it. We're hoping that next month we have 3 openings.
Not 3, a third.
A third opening. As we move along here, I do want to thank you all for your help in getting this all together. Thanks, Cynthia. And on behalf of Commissioner Les, I want to thank you for 2 years as our chair, serving on this commission and leading us the way you have. Thank you very much. If there is nothing further, I move that we are adjourned into our next meeting, which would be Monday, November 25th at 4:30.